Hello, my friends. Let's start with a weekly summary. The Russians have managed to capture 25 square kilometers, while the Ukrainian Armed Forces have regained a little less than 1 square kilometer. Overall, the situation remains grim as the Russians continue their gradual advance. The fighting along the entire front line is as intense as ever. We'll begin with the Kharkiv direction. The battle for the village of Hlyboke is ongoing and has been for almost 2 months. On June 8th, the Ukrainian Armed Forces managed to push the Russians back from the village of Lipty, starting the battle for Hlyboke. By June 16th, the Ukrainian Armed Forces had taken control of half the village. Since then, the front line has remained unchanged. Despite the constant influx of Russian reinforcements, the Ukrainian Armed Forces continue to grind down the Russian army, holding the front line steady. In Vovchansk, the situation is the same. The Russians are storming the city, but the Ukrainian Armed Forces are preventing their advance. The fighting around the Tykhe area continues, but the front line hasn't changed in the past day. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians failed to break through to Petropavlivka. As a result, they continue to shell Ukrainian Armed Forces positions to prepare for future attacks. Currently, assaults are only being recorded near the village of Makiivka, but there are no changes along the front line. In the Svatove area, it's a calm before the storm. The Russians are regrouping and bringing in reserves. Attacks have been recorded only near the village of Makiivka, but activity is low and there are no changes to the front line. In the Kreminna direction, the Russians continue to shell Lyman, causing a fire from recent strikes. They are also assaulting Nevske and Terny, but there are no changes along the front line. In the Siversk direction, the Russians are attacking Verkhnokamyanske and Spirne. However, their activity is not very high, with only 5 attacks conducted and no successes achieved. The other directions are experiencing a lull. In the Chasiv Yar area, battles continue for Ivanivske and Andriivka. The situation is challenging as the Russians attempt to strengthen the front line, but the Ukrainian Armed Forces are managing to hold their defense. Within Chasiv Yar itself, the fighting also persists, with the Russians achieving some minor gains. In the Toretsk direction, fighting continues in Pivnichne and Zalizne, with the Russians attempting to break through from Zalizne towards Toretsk. Street battles in New York are ongoing, and the Russians are heavily shelling the city with caps. The situation is extremely difficult, but there have been no new changes along the front line in the past day. In the Pokrovsk direction, shelling of rear areas continues, with reported strikes on Myrnohrad, Novohrodivka and Hrodivka. The Russians are attempting to break through to the highway, throwing significant reserves into an offensive. Approximately 30 assaults were recorded in the past day. The distance from the front line to the highway is currently 4.5 kilometers. The Russians are making significant attempts to advance from the village of Progress, leading to ongoing assaults on Vesele, Sergiyevka and battles near Zalizne. Ukrainian forces report that Russians have already reached the outskirts of the village. Consequently, it appears that the front section near the village of Vovchansk is either encircled again, or Ukrainian forces have managed to withdraw from there. Details are awaited, as information often arrives with delays. Additionally, battles continue near Yasnobrodivka, and Russians are advancing towards Kalynove, though Ukrainian forces are repelling attacks, keeping the front line unchanged. Furthermore, Russians have confirmed that Ukrainian forces managed to strike Russian troops before their deployment to the Pokrovsk direction. On July 27, 2024, a strike was carried out on a rare military training ground in Luhansk region, where soldiers of the 228th Motor Rifle Regiment of the 90th Tank Division of the Russian Armed Forces were located. The soldiers were gathering before being sent to reinforce the forward position of the 228th Motor Rifle Regiment near the settlement of Acharetene. The strike was carried out using ATACMS ballistic missiles. The distance to the front line is 110 kilometers. As of 8 p.m. on July 27th, the casualties are 19 killed, 71 wounded. In the Kurakhove direction, battles for Krasnohorivka are ongoing, with the Russians still unable to fully capture the area. Though I'm not saying they won't succeed, eventually even Ukrainian forces admit the city might have to be abandoned soon. For now, the Ukrainian defenders hold the outskirts and continue to destroy the advancing Russians. In the Maximilianivka area, fighting also continues with Russian assault in Paraskovivka and the village of Kostantinivka. Here, their front line remains unchanged. In the Vuhledar direction, the Russians continue intentionally, seemingly preparing for new assaults. Today, they attempted to break through past Velyka Novosilka with the fields, but Ukrainian forces stopped them, keeping their front line steady. Additionally, today, the Russians released a video showing them baking bread from grain in Staromaiorske due to a lack of food supplies.
22 число. До чего дошел прогресс?
Это сколько мы уже? 27 или 28 день?
Научились
Двадцать.
хлебать печь.
Если 22 5 дней
Хлеба.
оттуда. Вот 27 день.
27
день Старомайорский.
27 день, да, Старомайорский передок. Сидим, жарим
В блокаде, сука.
хлеб. О, в процессе.
пшеницы, нихуя
Да, только пшеница и все. Нашли мясорубку, вот, перемалываем, отделяем муку от сечки уже по факту дробленной, готовим кашу, а с этого делаем лепешки.
Вон кашу посыпи.
Каша уже готова. Целая кастрюля на 7 наварили. Еды нам не дают, трехразовое питание у нас нет. Вот суетим из того, что оставили нам мирные жители украинцы. А по факту воруем зерно у куриц. Потому что это все с амбаров, не более.
This, friends, is the great Russian army abandoning its troops on the front lines just to capture some village. The reality is that they don't have free access to bring food and ammunition to the soldiers. Of course, you might ask, if the Russians are struggling so much, why don't the Ukrainian forces conduct counterattacks and reclaim the territory? Unfortunately, this is a question many are asking today, even among Ukrainian soldiers. But now there is no answer. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, offensive operations continue towards Mala Tokmachka and Novoandriivka. The Russians are making some progress here, although it's very slow. In the Kherson direction. The situation is shocking. The Russians are actively assaulting the islands, trying to establish a foothold for further advancement due to the right bank. Just a week ago, Russian military correspondents reported that water crossing exercises were being conducted, and today we see such offensive actions. We are waiting to see how the situation develops, but Russian military correspondents are already very nervous because these new assaults are resulting in even greater losses than the assault on the village of Kreminna. I am so fed up with these victors on the fronts of the special military operation. We took 100, 200 meters, we liberated one village, we occupied half of the village of Robotina, we occupied one island. And it's like this everywhere. But the fact that thousands of our guys have fallen for these meters of liberated territory, you military bloggers and state propagandists don't give a damn. These are our Russian boys dying there, who have mothers, wives, children, who will never see them alive again. They write to us asking us to find them, but there are thousands of them. We just physically can't. I'm fed up with everything, fed up with all the lies at every level. It's shameful in front of the fighters. Meanwhile, Zelensky gave another interview and said that a plan for achieving peace would be developed by the end of November. Kyiv will develop a plan for achieving peace by the end of November. The US elections will affect the prospects for peace in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials have already reached out to the Trump and Harris teams. Ukraine and Japan are working very closely together. Japan became the first non-NATO country to sign a bilateral security agreement with Ukraine. Friends, what do you think about this peace plan? Will it work? And will there be a ceasefire by the end of this year? Share your thoughts in the comments. And that's all from me. So please, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.